Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We have finished our game-by-game predictions for every single Power 5 school and the independents, and now it is time to start our Group of 5 conference recaps, and we're going to kick things off with the Mountain West Conference. And of course, we all know that Boise State has been the king of the Mountain West for about the past decade. But it should be noted that since the Mountain West invoked a conference championship game back in 2013, the Broncos have only won it 2 times. As a matter of fact, only 3 teams have ever won the Mountain West Conference Championship game. That would be Boise State, who's won it twice, San Diego State, who has won it twice, and Fresno State, who won it twice and won the Mountain West Conference last season. So the Mountain West, once again, wide open this year. Boise State, probably the heavy favorite. And we'll kick things off in the Mountain Division to talk about the Broncos because they lose their star quarterback in Brett Rippon, their star running back in Alex Madison, and their top 3 wide receivers. But we have to keep in mind, this is Boise State here. This is a Boise State team that has won at least 8 games every year since 1999. Unbelievable statistic for the Broncos. Brian Harsin is going to have this team ready to go once again. Yes, they might have to start a freshman quarterback this season. And yes, the schedule is somewhat difficult. Their 3 toughest games, a road game at Florida State or in Jacksonville against Florida State, but a long road trip for the Broncos, and then back-to-back or road games against BYU and Utah State. So those 3 games are going to be the bulk of Boise State's schedule, the most difficult games of Boise State's schedule, but the Broncos will once again be ready to go. While the offense may struggle a little bit off the bat, the defense is going to pick up any slack there as they have a very experienced defensive line and secondary, certainly the strengths for Boise State. We have them at 9-3, only losing 1 conference game in the regular season and making an appearance once again in the Mountain West Championship game. We then have Air Force coming in at number 2 in the Mountain Division, going 7-5, 6-2 overall. And Troy Calhoun is doing a phenomenal job with the Falcons. I know he's gone 5-7 the past 2 seasons with Air Force, but this year could be the best Air Force team we have seen in a very, very long time. And I'm not talking, obviously, like an 8, 9, 10-win season, but 7-5 in contention, just 1 game behind Boise State for a Mountain West Championship appearance. It's pretty dang good for the Falcons. DJ Hammond is back at quarterback, the guy that kind of gave the Falcons a spark last season on offense. They returned 7 starters offensively, 7 starters defensively, and had their best defense since 2015 last season. I expect the defense to be even better in 2019. Tough games at Boise State, at Navy, and at Hawaii. But if they take care of business at home and maybe win a game or 2 on the road that we just mentioned there, they are certainly Mountain West title contenders. We have Utah State in a tie for Air Force, right at 7-5. But as you've probably figured out, we have the Falcons owning the tiebreaker over the Aggies. Now, last year, Utah State won 11 games and saw themselves rise as high as number 14 in the country. They were in contention for a New Year's 6 bowl berth, but they fell at Boise State with a spot in the Mountain West title game on the line, fell to the Broncos, and were unable to go bowling. Matt Wells, their head coach, is gone to Texas Tech, but in comes Gary Anderson. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because, yes, he was the former Wisconsin head coach, but before Wisconsin, he was here at Utah State. And he inherits a great quarterback in Jordan Love, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in all of the Group of 5, throwing for over 3,500 yards last year, 32 touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions, not to mention he added 7 rushing touchdowns as well. Unfortunately for Utah State, though, outside of Jordan Love and their quarterback, the only other starter that returns on offense is their offensive lineman in Alfred Edwards. So a very, for the most part, inexperienced offense for Utah State. Technically dealing with a brand new head coach, their defense will certainly be their strength, but I think they're going to take a major step back from that 11-win season that they had last year. 7-5, 6-2 in conference play, though, not too bad. We then have Wyoming coming in at number 4 in the Mountain Division, 6-6, 4-4, and last year they went 6-6, but were not invited to a bowl game, which for me, I was very disappointed to see that from the Cowboys, considering the job that Craig Bohl has done with this program after coming over from North Dakota State 6 years ago. And considering the state that this Wyoming football program was in before he came here, he's done a phenomenal job winning 6 or more games 3 of the past 5 seasons. We once again had them winning 6 games with veteran quarterbacks Tyler Vanderwall and Sean Chambers back. I think this Wyoming team has the potential to go bowling, maybe even exceed my expectations and win 7 or 8 games if they can get over some of the difficult games that they face, including a rough stretch towards the end at Boise State, at Utah State, and at Air Force. So a difficult end of the season, but if they start strong, they could do better than the 6 wins and should get invited to a bowl game in 2019. New Mexico and Colorado State both tied right at 3-9, 2-6 in conference play, and kind of the same situation up here with Air Force and Utah State. We have the Lobos winning the tiebreaker over the Rams. Both teams, though, not going to take a major step forward in 2019. Maybe for some, taking a step back. But Bob Davie, we'll start with New Mexico. Bob Davie's a guy that really can't, that he just makes or breaks for me. He's a guy that I can have to go in 3-9. He'll end up winning 9 games, much like he did back in 2016. But he's led New Mexico to back-to-back 3-9 seasons. To say he's on the hot seat, I wouldn't go that far yet. But it's going to be another rough year, only returning 2 starters defensively after they allowed 36.2 points per game in 2018. The defense could be worse than they were last year. The offense should improve. They'll be competitive, but not enough to go bowling. 3-9. Same thing for the Rams. Mike Bobo enters his 5th year with Colorado State. After going 7-6 3 straight years, he went 3-9 last year. Their highlight of the season, getting that win over Arkansas, an SEC opponent. I think the offense will improve after only scoring 22.8 points per game last year. But games against Colorado, Arkansas, at Utah State, at Fresno State, it spells another rough year, in my opinion, for the Rams. So Boise, coming out of the Mountain Division, getting their spot in the conference championship game. Over on the west side, though, this side of the Mountain West will be much more competitive, the Western Division. This one, to me, is a 3-man race between San Diego State, Hawaii, and Fresno State. And right now, we have the Aztecs getting the win here. We have them winning the Western Division and having a date against the Broncos. Last year, San Diego State was 7-2, but lost their final 4 games, including a 27-0 shutout loss to Ohio in their bowl game. But the key for the Aztecs is going to be to rely on their rushing game, much like they've done the past few seasons with Donnell Pumphrey and Rashad Perry. They've got a guy here in Juwan Washington who nearly rushed for 1,000 yards last year. 999. He was 1 yard short, and he missed 4 games. That's how good this guy was. Nearly rushing for over 1,000 yards, even though he missed a third of the season. If he stays healthy, San Diego State's going to be a tough out for any team. They have a veteran quarterback in Ryan Agnew, and the defense hasn't allowed more than 22.2 points per game since 2013. So this San Diego State team, once again, I think the team to beat in the Western Division as long as they can stay healthy. Then right behind them is Hawaii. They played 13 games this season, so they've got to win 7 to get to bowl eligibility, and we've got them doing just that, 7-6, 4-4. And that was this close to having Hawaii winning this Western Division, because this is how much I love this Rainbow Warriors team. What Nick Rolovich has done over on the islands is absolutely unbelievable. They were 6-1 last year, looking poised to maybe win the Mountain West or win this Western Division, but they lost 5 of their final 7 games. But if you don't know this name already, you better hear it now and don't forget it. Cole McDonald, the quarterback for the Rainbow Warriors, put up insane numbers last year, but nobody was talking about him. 3,800 yards last year through the air, 36 touchdowns, and just 10 interceptions. I expect Hawaii to have a rough start to the season this year, but finish strong. Kind of the opposite of last year, where they started strong and finished poorly. They have Fresno State and San Diego State coming over to the islands. They win those 2 games, they have a chance to win the Western Division. They're going bowling once again, though. Don't sleep on this Hawaii team that has 9 starters back on offense and 9 starters back on defense. They could very well surprise and win this Western Division. We did have Fresno State and Nevada tied for 3rd, 6-6, 4-4 overall, so a lot of tiebreakers here in the Mountain West. Fresno State, though, we're giving the edge, the tie-breaking edge head-to-head against the Wolfpack. And the thing with Fresno State is Jeff Tedford has done a phenomenal job transforming this team. They went 1-11 before he got there. In the past 2 years, he's led them to a 22-6 record, so that's purely unbelievable. And the past 2 years, on top of that record, he's won both of his bowl games. but the Bulldogs are going to be very inexperienced this year, in my opinion. Last year they had a lot of experience. They won 12 games, went just 12-2, so a remarkable season considering 2 years prior they were 1-11. But Marcus McMaryion is gone at quarterback. They only have 3 starters back on offense and will probably rely heavily on their running back and Ronnie Rivers. Their defense will remain the strength. So if the offense struggles, the defense should be able to keep them in games. 6 returning starters from a unit that allowed just 14.1 points per game last year. One of the best statistically in the entire nation. But I think Fresno State takes a major step back in Jeff Tedward's 3rd season with the Bulldogs. Another difficult schedule to go on top of that. Probably not going to be able to get those wins over UCLA and some Power 5 opponents like they did last year. So 6-6 there. Nevada coming in also at 6-6, making their first bowl game last year since 2015, finishing 8-5 on the season. Now, they do lose their star quarterback, but last year was the season they made over 30 points per game on offense since 2012. So I don't really expect that to decrease much. Even though they lose Ty Ganji at quarterback, I don't see those numbers decreasing that much. Jay Norvell is doing a phenomenal job out there in Nevada, and I would expect him to get back to a bowl game. So the first one since 2015 came last year. They're going to make back-to-back in 2019, assuming they can get invited and not get snubbed like Wyoming did last season. But he's doing a phenomenal job there. 6 starters back on offense, 5 starters back on defense. I think the Wolfpack go bowling once again. And then kind of like here, New Mexico and Colorado State, we've got your bottom 2 in the cellar of the Western Division, UNLV, San Jose State. And I'll go on record and say that I like this UNLV team. I really do. I like Armani Rogers at quarterback. But he's got to stay healthy. If he doesn't stay healthy, then UNLV's done. Their season for their chance at a bowl game is out. And one thing we have to keep in mind is Tony Sanchez, the head coach of the Rebels, is absolutely on the hot seat. Entering year 5, is just 16-32 and has yet to make a bowl appearance. If UNLV cannot stay healthy, they will not go bowling. They're going to be very competitive, and Armani Rogers is going to be the guy that keeps them in these games. But I still have them falling short, 4-8, 3-5 in Mountain West play, and could spell the end of the Tony Sanchez era. And coming in at last, it shouldn't be a surprise, San Jose State, 2-10 overall, 1-7 in conference play. They are just 3-22 the past 2 seasons. Now, this Spartans team will be much more competitive in 2019. They lost their 11 games last year by an average of 17.9 points per game. So expect the Spartans to be much more competitive across the board. Maybe they can exceed 2, maybe get to 3 or 4 wins. But the Spartans are in no place to go bowling this season. And I think they're going to be once again in the cellar of the Mountain West Conference. So, all of that being said, we have Boise State and San Diego State meeting in the Mountain West Conference title game. One of these teams is going to get their 3rd Mountain West title since they had a championship game installed back in 2013. And that team that will get their 3rd ever title will be Boise State. The Broncos are going to beat the Aztecs. Brian Harsin continues to do a phenomenal job with this Broncos program. And every single year, they lose a handful of people. And every single year, Boise State doesn't see many early NFL enrollees. So you'll see guys that come back, and then they'll all leave because they have to graduate, and Boise State has to reload on offense, and everybody freaks out, and the offense ends up doing just fine because they have offensive-minded coaches. Brian Harsin is that guy. So even though Boise State lost so many playmakers offensively, I think they're going to be just fine, especially by the end of the season. That offense is going to be clicking. We mentioned that the defensive line is the strength, and that's going to be the key in shutting down Juwan Washington and the San Diego State rushing attack. I do not think Ryan Agnew has the poise and the clutch factor to win this game through the air if he has to, and he certainly doesn't have it going up against such a strong Boise State secondary. The Broncos get yet another Mountain West title, finish the season 10-3, and will certainly be in contention for a New Year's 6 bowl game. So guys, as always, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert. And of course, check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com. Sign up for our newsletter and sign up for our expert picks. For just $30, you will receive every single one of our 2019 college football spread picks, including the postseason. I can promise you that's a deal you do not want to pass up. So join our team, sign up today only at thegridironexpert.com. And once again, guys, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.